live. Hello, everybody. Hello, we're talking Tuesday training, 4 different types of pain. That's what we're going to cover today, and the different approaches to each of them. So there's different approaches to each of the types of pain, and there's also, in order to resolve them, and there's also different messaging for each of the pain types. And that's really the difference that we want to make sure that we have a handle around. So I'm going to share that with you guys today. If you miss the pain type, it will make it harder for you to do your work. And if you miss the pain type, it'll prolong the pain for the client. So these are reasons why we dive into different pain types. I see you guys all coming in into the YouTube channel, into the YouTuberverse. I'm glad you guys are here. Welcome. Welcome to everybody who's here new. I know we have so many new folks joining us in our YouTube channel on our Tuesday training, and I'm very excited to have you. I'm very also excited to have everyone who's been here for what seems like a long time, but it's never enough. So I welcome all of you warmly. We are meeting here every week. Practitioners, manual and movement practitioners meet here every week for orthopedic work and client work and functional anatomy and biomechanics and all the things that we can do to create better outcomes in the clinical work that we do. I am your host as always, and I'm here to walk you through how I work clinically so that you can also work the same way if that works for you. This is what I do that creates results, and I want you to have the same kind of results. So that's what I'm here for. If I haven't met you before, hi, I'm Gina Schatz, and I'm delighted that you're here. I'm just scrolling a little bit. Hey, Gary, nice to see you. I'm just scrolling here a little bit to make sure that I can see the chat online, and I can, except that YouTube does what it does. So I want to make sure that those of you who are watching live on YouTube also feel free to use the chat and make sure that if you have questions that I get them answered for you while you're here. Of course, everyone here in the club seats, feel free to come off mute, use the chat if you need to. It's harder for me to see the chat, but if you need to do that, go for it. Otherwise, just come off mute and let me know your questions. We're going to cover the 4 pain types today. It's good to be back, by the way. I missed you guys last week. Did you miss Tuesday training? Or were you so happy at I mean, it's kind of like a both and, right? How many of you were at the summit last week, Orthopedic Practitioner Fall Summit? Yes? Got some goodness out of that one? Oh, heck yeah. I think, I mean, they just keep getting better and better. I don't know how we can keep making that happen, but it's good to be back. It's good to also have a good 3 days. Good, Rhonda. I'm glad. And if you guys have any questions about the summit, I know in our Shots Method community, during our mastery group trainings, we did talk about each of the speakers, and delighted to know that our program is very comprehensive and we cover all of that. So if you guys have any questions, if you're not in mastery with us, please do let me know if you have any questions from any of the conversations that came up in training last week. Eileen, do I spy a skeleton behind you? Oh my gosh. Let me see. They're my favorite. It's spooky season too. Everybody's got skeletons out. Two, because two are better than one. Why wouldn't you have two? Three. Oh, okay. Oh, that's right. You did say that you hit your order button after the summit. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because we got to see the goodness. Amazing. All right, awesome. Hi guys. I can now see the chat here on YouTube. Welcome. I know you guys are here. Hello, hello, hello. All right. Shall we dive into pain types? The pain types. 4. It's kind of like 5, but we're definitely going to cover 4. You'll understand when we get there. Anna, I'm going to call on you, hot seat. Do you know the 4 pain types?
Um, I think so, since
Let's
I
hear.
try to figure it out with my clients.
Yeah.
Um, so acute, um, chronic,
Hmm.
like they're forever and ever. Preventative, caused by a lot of patterning. Referral. I don't know if that's a pain. I guess yeah, it's a pain type, referral.
Hmm. Yep.
I can't
Absolutely.
I can't think of a fifth though.
You'll know when we get there. You'll remember. Those are great, Anna. You rattled them all off. Well done. So good. So we do cover those in our group training, and I want to make sure that everybody here, even if you're not in a group training, that you have a handle on at least identifying these different pain types. Because again, if we know what pain type we're working on, it dramatically changes our treatment plan, especially like the difference between acute and chronic. And I'll unpack that for us here. We just cannot treat them the same. One of them, if we treated them both the same, one of them would create more pain and the other one wouldn't get resolved. So then again, we're working harder and not creating results, and the pain is prolonging then for the folks that we're in service to. So we really want to understand the pain types, and then there's a messaging component, meaning you get to explain what the implications are of that pain to the people that you're in service to. Because when you can explain what the implications are of the pain, then they're on board for the solution as well. Especially as we talk about acute pain, most people are on their knees begging for help. And if you explain to them what that pain type implication is, they will then understand why you have parameters on what you can or can't do in that moment. And all of that just creates better outcomes, but just better clinical outcomes if you understand all of that. Preventive, I saw Gary go, wait, what? How is preventive pain? Preventive isn't caused by patterning, as you said, Anna. Preventive is what we want to prevent. So it's like we use the word to define the word almost. Preventive isn't caused yet, but we do have a responsibility to preventive pain. And I I wish that we were all only working on preventive pain. And the more we turn up the dial on working with preventive pain, the more we can intercept chronic and acute pain cycles and misunderstandings and over medication and clinical interventions that aren't needed. Once we can actually get really clear on preventive pain, and what to do about it, which starts with really clear messaging, then we can avoid all of the other things that people spend a lot of time and money on and fear around. And so that's where I really want us to all get. The interesting thing about preventive pain is that when you understand it, that also informs your treatment. Because you're not just going to wait until someone's out of pain to start addressing preventive pain. You're actually addressing preventive pain while they're with you with chronic and acute pain too. It's like a two for three for idea. So all of these pain types inform each other, but they largely inform you and the work that you're going to do as well and the results that you'll create. So shall we unpack them? Yeah. So acute pain has a very clear ringing bell for, I'm not laughing because it's funny. I'm laughing because it's so clear. It's so clear it's comical. It's got a very clear bell ring for the person who's experiencing acute pain. And acute pain can come from a few different places. It can come from impact or, an accident, you fall down the stairs, etc., hit your head on something. But it also can just seemingly appear. When it happens from an injury, it's really easy for both you and the person you're in service to know, I fell and that's why I'm hurting here. And they might still have some confusion, like, but I fell on my right hip. I don't know what's going on with my left shoulder. I don't know why that's involved, but that seems also really pressing right now too. So that just leads us as clinicians to understand the impact that the body went through in that injury, in that moment where you're both clear this fall occurred and that created acute pain, and then some residual, like tentacles, if you will. And that ties into our referral pain, which you called out, Anna, as our fourth. Either way, whether there's a referral pattern with the acute or there's just acute, I hit my head here, I broke my arm there, and I only have pain in that one spot. There is a significant amount of consideration on what we do to intervene when there's acute pain. Some of it has to do with with the lever system, with the nervous system. I feel like everything's got to do with the lever system, but that's not what I meant. Some of it has to do with the nervous system, and some of it has to do with the damage that was done to any tissues that you may or may not see, but you need to be privy to. So how can you be privy to them if you can't see them? Well, you start to know more about the implications of certain injuries. And last week at the summit, I did talk about implications. Based on what and implications? When you can Clearly answer those questions for yourself. What are the implications of this being here? What are the implications of this not being here? What are the implications of this event occurring? What are the implications of the rest of the body in response to the thing that occurred? When you can answer all those questions, you've got a clinical mind, clinical reasoning, you can solve the problem. If you can't answer those questions, that's where you get to study next. That's your next breakthrough. That's your next higher level training. It's not more techniques. It's not more knowledge. It's what you do with that knowledge. How do you synthesize that information so that you then can devise the plan? That's how you get to a treatment plan, by being able to devise it, by understanding the implications of everything involved. The anatomy, what happened to it, what's missing, and what the result is from the thing that's missing that should be there. And when I say thing, it could be anything. The joint action, the muscle engagement, the attachment, like whatever the thing is specific to the person in front of you. There's no checklist. I mean, you've heard me say that before as well. So, how do you know what's going on underneath the surface in an acute injury? You get to understand the implications of what happens on impact. What was the impact? Where was the impact? What happened at the impact? How much damage was done to the impact? What does that damage mean? What's now no longer available? And what's present? You get to understand all of that. It's specific to the injury. But there's general framework like what happens in acute, and that's what I'm sharing with you here. The other thing about acute is that that's when folks are most hijacked, if you will. Their attention is like, whoa, everything's on the pain. It's distracting. It interrupts sleep. It interrupts movement. It interrupts lifestyle. Their body is actually screaming for help. That's when they have their most of their attention on said acute pain. And that's normally not the place where we can do the most heavy lifting. Because also, what happens in an acute state is that there's injured tissues and they need to be left to sort out that damage. Some of it can be intercepted by us gently and delicately, most of it cannot. So when someone calls you and says, I don't know what happened, I just went to go put my sock on this morning and I threw my back out. Can you do a deep tissue massage today at noon? That's not the time to do that. Because guess what? Never in the history of ever has putting on a sock caused debilitating back pain. That's not the cause. So whatever caused it to flare into that place needs to be addressed. And whatever caused it that caused the flare into that acute pain in that moment has been there for a while, or it wouldn't seemingly have bounced out of the blue. Whatever's been there for a while hasn't been addressed. And because it wasn't addressed, it became the problem. So you don't attack the symptoms in that moment. The symptoms are the Hail Mary. It's the wrong approach. Plus, we know the endocrine system and the nervous system are both involved, and now you got a chemical cocktail going on, and you have to navigate all of that in acute. But the way you can handle acute that flares up, like putting on socks or reaching for something, the way you can handle acute is by recognizing chronic. Because when acute pain just comes out of the blue, not from impact or injury or falling down or anything like that, when it seems to just appear out of nowhere, there's usually signs in the body that can lead you to see it coming. Not that we have crystal balls, but we do. Not that we can predict the future, but we kind of can, because mechanics, biomechanics, and function have a form to them. And so if you see the form of that movement and you see the form optimally, then you can start to I spy when the form is not optimal. And that's why I share with you guys, if you're manual practitioners, you still get to understand movement. You don't have to be a movement teacher or go back for another certification, but you do get to understand how those parts move when they're meant to be moving, even if you're the manual provider. And when you see form and function not the way it's designed to be, you can be a predictor that something's going to go awry. It might be a tiny something, it might be a big something. And after chronic has been there for a given period of time, and the body's continued to make arrangements for that chronic disposition, if you will, once the body has run out of alternative plan Bs, it will then say, I can't. And that will look like acute flare up. Like I reached down to put on my socks and something terrible happened. The sock putting on was not the problem. It was what you didn't have available to you for over long periods of time, probably, that led you to that moment. So, as clinicians, we get to recognize what's chronic. Chronic can be asymptomatic. You can have a chronic left-right hip imbalance. Most of you do. Most of you say to me, oh, I've always got this hip thing. Oh, it's always been this muscle. Oh, it's that ankle that I rolled in college football. Oh, it's that one shoulder that's always just been a little uncomfortable. But then, I got some treatment for it and it was fine now. But if you're really honest, you don't have symmetry in your limbs. If you're really honest, you navigate a low grade something or other. That is your body's indicator that there is chronic something happening that it's trying to navigate on its own. That's where we can do the most heavy lifting, but we need to be able to ID it and not wait until there's an acute flare up before we actually intervene. How do you do that? That's where your high level skill is. Your visual assessment's on point. The implications of what you're seeing is absolutely clear. You know functional anatomy, you know orthopedics, you know biomechanics, and you know where to insert yourself in all of them to optimize them. That's the skill. That's what we're training on, right? A large part of what we're training. And when you can navigate chronic, folks are available. Their chemical cocktails aren't on high alert. They are actually able to move. It's maybe a little uncomfortable, but they can still get the corrective job done that you're up to with them. And it is our role to do that because without correcting a chronic pattern, it can become acute. And then it's not too late, but it's too late for right now. You need to wait until the acute flare is over so you don't create more damage on those tissues. Which leads me to when you are navigating what you see as imbalances, even in your own body, when you're recognizing that, like, it's not, quote, normal to have a low grade anything. It's just, it's not optimal. Some things you're getting a little like, hey, could you? No? Okay. How about, could we? No? Okay. Tomorrow, can we? That's what you're getting when you're getting low grade discomfort. It's like someone you cared about. If they kept asking for your attention and you kept saying later, eventually they would not be happy about that if they really wanted your attention. And people who love you do. So you get to pay attention. Your body loves you. Your body's trying to keep itself alive. So if it's raising its hand, there's a reason for that. When we can recognize as clinicians what those reasons, what those implications are, and then clinically reason through a solution to them, now we are the provider of all things good in the world. And when you know what's optimal and what's needed to take a, minor discomfort out of the mix, what you've actually done is started the path of prevention, of preventive pain. If this is a little gnarly right now, but we do this instead, it will knock it out at the root. Then it won't become more chronic, which means it can't become acute because it's not there anymore. You've prevented it. Now, the easiest conversation to have, the easiest messaging is on chronic pain. People are a little uncomfortable. They know that they're not getting out of life what they want. Their body's a little mischievous. They know that they could feel better and they think that you're the person that can solve it and you can. And great, everybody's on board. They're willing before they walk in. Great. And we tend to leave people hanging there and not actually solve it. We make it feel better for a little while, but we don't solve it. And instinctively, when we know that, we want to be better, but we've eroded our own confidence because we know that we didn't solve it. We just aren't sure how long it's going to be until that pain comes back, but we're not positive it won't. But if you know what the genesis of the problem is and you know what optimizing means and then can institute it in your session, then you won't have a chronic repeat. You'll have prevented the next chronic repeat. And then your confidence will be great and everything will be beautiful in the world. The second hardest to message is acute. because, your clients, your patients, your students, they're on their knees. They're begging for help. And all they're hearing you say is no, not right now. And they think you just don't understand. You're not hearing me. You're not feeling my pain. You're not taking this seriously. I don't know what you're doing, but you're bogarting the care that I'm actually begging for. Why are you doing that? And again, their chemical cocktail is pretty high, right? Their endocrine system is like the bartender that with a heavy pour. They're not hearing clearly in that moment. How could they? Their body's protecting it from the experience. So it's pretty hard to message, and it's very tempting to want to jump in anyway. And you can at a level. And that level depends obviously on the person who's in front of you, but you can do some things to help stabilize the experience in their body. I don't mean stabilize a joint, but that definitely could be it if that's what's happening with your client. But there are some interactions that you can offer someone in an acute stage that can stabilize the scenario and not make it worse, and let your client know that you are in service to them. And it must be paired with messaging about why not to go further in this moment. And I tell you this from experience, you have to message that. There's sometimes I tell you guys, you know, leave the shop talk to us and don't burden your client with trying to understand the function or the anatomy. Like give them a little bit, but don't give them a whole anatomy lesson. Most of them don't want that. They need enough to know to be powerful. And you don't want to just like finger wag at people about anatomy they don't know. But in an acute situation, you do want to message to them very clearly on what? On the implications of what's occurring, which is what I started our conversation with. You have to know those implications, so that A, you know what to do in your intervening, and B, you can message to them what to do or not to do based on implications, not based on finger wagging. Because if you tell someone who's on their knees in pain, begging for help, that today is not the right day for you to offer the help, they are going to leave you and go somewhere else that will. And that's happened so many times early on in my career where I didn't message to them not to go somewhere else. It like didn't dawn on me that that's what they would do. And now I see it. Of course, it makes total sense. They're desperate. They're in a lot of pain. Why wouldn't they go 15 places? I tend to be very different. When my physical body's in pain, I get super still and super quiet because I need that chemical cocktail to calm down and I need to be able to hear what's actually going on and have a calm knowing about what to do next. But most people in an acute situation don't do that. I'm comforted by the anatomy knowledge I have. Most of our clients don't have the same anatomy knowledge, so it's not making sense and clicking for them. And no matter how still and quiet they are, it won't ever click. That's why they need us, so that we can explain that. But the problem with not explaining the implications in an acute stage means that they could then go somewhere else where there also is not clarity on acute implications and then become more injured. And you guys might have clients where that actually happened. I know there was a client of mine who had a lot of tensile stress in their paraspinal muscles, starting with a reversed cervical curve. And tensile stress has a different characteristic of pain than contractile stress, and you get to know what that means and what that is. And when I was just in discussion with this person and hadn't explained the implications or the treatment plan, the next thing they did was go to a chiropractor who immediately put them in traction, that took tensile stressed muscles and put them under weighted force to lengthen them even more. Well, sure, when that patient came back to me and said, the chiropractic didn't help, it's not the chiropractic. What was done at the chiropractor? It wasn't an adjustment, it was traction. That means something different than an adjustment. You need to know those implications. What is an adjustment? What does a chiropractic adjustment do to the body? What body parts are being affected under what kind of force? Versus what does traction do to the body and what muscle or what body parts are being affected by traction and what's the implication of that effect? When you can answer that, you can see why the body responded the way it did. What you want to do in acute is explain that like preemptively. I know you're in pain. Tensile stress muscles do feel tight. I absolutely hear you for sure. The last thing you want to do right now is stretch them in any way. I know it's tempting because you just want it to go away. I want it to go away too, but that's going to make it worse. Just like when you guys all winced when I just said a lengthened muscle under weight, and you're like, your clients are smart enough to know what that means. Just explain that so that at least they can advocate for themselves while they're under duress, which is a big ask. That is a big ask. For someone who's under that kind of duress and acute pain, asking them to also be rational and think clearly and also speak up and also be calm and also to be patient, that's a big ask. So you get to fill that gap by explaining implications. And if you don't yet know those implications, that's my invitation for you. It's your next learning. Let me help you with that if you think I can. I know I can because that's exactly the kind of messaging I'm up to here. When you can explain that to someone, you empower them in your absence instead of leave them flailing in your absence to go do something else because they think you just didn't get quite how much pain they're in. No, no, I get it. And here's the implication. Here's what that would mean. Here's how that would roll out. Here's what that would do to the body. Here's how the body would respond to that. You get to have those answers. And then the calm, clear messaging to explain that. What you don't want to do when someone's in high sympathetic acute is meet them with like a lot of, you can't like, you got to like downshift 2 gears, be super calm, super clear, and without being condescending, even ask them to replay it back to you. Every time I've messaged to someone in an acute state and I've asked them, okay, so let me hear what you heard. So I'm sure I was clear. Every time they replay it back, it's not what I said. It's so difficult to hear clearly and think reasonably when you're in an acute state. Any kind of acute, musculoskeletal, psychological, financial, any kind of acute state, it's really difficult to hear. So that's why I'm emphasizing it's difficult to message when someone's in acute pain, and you get to take the leap. Like you to be fully in service to them, you get to figure out how to make what's difficult for them easy for you. You just stay with them until they have what they need to be empowered to take next right action for their body. All they want is for the pain to go away. It's all anybody wants. It's all the body wants. So that's not a fault. Well, I told them not to go to chiropractic and they did. No, 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 no. If you told them and they went anyway, you expressed it in a way that they didn't understand or they wouldn't have. It's still on us. You get to stretch your messaging in those states for sure, which then just sets you up to be able to message to preventive, which is actually the hardest to message because there's no problem, right? Our brain is wired to solve problems and to avert injury. That's what it's there for. It's to recall information from the past and make sure that we stay alive and upright and healthy. So if there's no problem, if I have no pain, if I have no discomfort, if I have no limitation, if I don't have anything that's nagging, what are you on about? It doesn't land. It doesn't land. It doesn't land. And the more stern you get about shoulds, the less they'll be interested in what you have to say because people don't like to be shoulded on. So it's an interesting, it's not impossible, it's just an interesting stretch of your communication skill. What do you know about the implications of preventive work? And is it actually true? And I'm going to stress this for a second. Every single client that I've asked if they did the exercises that their PT gave them, or if they followed through on the workout routine that their Pilates instructor told them to do, or if they are still going to yoga, if they're whatever it is that they were doing, when I ask them, when said practitioner gave you advice and said, if you just do this, if you just do that, or you need to do this, or you need to do that, why didn't that compel you to keep going? It wasn't because it was preventive and there was no problem to solve. It was always because it didn't make sense to them why. Which means that even if it was sound advice, the practitioner had not clearly messaged the implications about why it matters. And so the empowerment feeling that we want to offer folks when they need to advocate for themselves in acute states, they didn't have the empowerment around the thing. You just gave them something to do to be busy, like you sounded smart, and so they nodded and then left and then didn't do it. Literally, that's what's happening. So if you want your clients to do their homework, you need to know the implications and the messaging that goes with it to onboard them and enroll them into a benefits conversation about the implications. If you're not clear on implications, you won't be able to message that. That's why I kept going on about implications last week at the summit. I'm telling you, it's the kingpin here in both your messaging and also in your confidence building for you to know what to say and why to offer someone to do something. Nobody's bored on the planet right now. You don't need to give them stuff to do to keep them busy. If it's not going to give them a result that matters to them, aka a benefit, they're largely not interested. So, how do you make them interested? By knowing if it's needed and then explaining that through implications. This is what happens to the body when you do this. This is what happens to the body when you don't. And this is what happens next after that. When you can walk someone through that, and that comes from your knowledge of biomechanics and function and orthopedic results and things like that, when you can message that, then everybody's on board. And then they get out of pain quicker. Your work is a lot easier. Everybody's happy. You're getting the results that you want. Your confidence jumps out the roof, as it should when you're navigating pain at this level, for sure. Okay, so far we did acute, chronic, and preventive. You guys have any questions? I see you guys taking notes, which lights me up. You guys have any questions? All right, what's landing? Oh, Gary, go ahead. What do you got?
Is taking what you were saying and then just applying it to clients where that preventative messaging is the tough bit. And I find it's the athletes, especially could be a weekend warrior athlete, but people who are just taught and have learned to push through the pain. Because when they do that movement, it's painful, but if you keep doing it, you'll get through it. Those are the kinds of folks that I find it's really hard to get that message across
Mhm.
because they're used to a pattern. That pattern has caused them this pain. Um, especially, I don't know, especially, but the client I'm thinking about is a runner. She likes her, she runs 5 days a week. And now she's having issues with certain joints. So when you tell them to take a step back, it's like, what? And then you have to really work that whole thing back about the function and what it's doing to the joints and all of that. I find those are the toughest clients sometimes.
Mm,
Is the athletes, the guys that are really pushing to get somewhere physically.
okay.
I don't
So, yeah, do you want to unpack that a little bit?
know. Well, it actually means stepping back and talking about the if it's a knee issue, then you really have to, in other words, try to figure out what's going on in the knee, why it's going on there, what are some of the implications of doing that same motion over and over and over again, what they need to do to recover. It's a big it's a big task, I think. Yeah.
It is
Uh,
a big task, but it's not impossible, Gary, right? Like
oh
you're,
no, oh no, I don't think it's impossible. I just think, when you get that kind of client, um, you have to understand where they're coming from. They're not the usual person that just gee, I can't walk a couple of blocks, or the person that says, gee, I can't run those 2 or 3 or 5 miles like I used to.
Yeah.
Um,
Well,
yeah.
rather than
Um,
profiling a client as a difficult client, what we get to do is have the invitation to meet them, right?
oh yeah,
So,
I agree.
so,
Sure.
so for example, when you ask a runner to step back, what do you mean by that?
Well, I would say, are you aware of what movement or what motion creates the pain? Um, that's a starting point.
Hmm.
Let's. I'm going to have you create this motion, or have you run down the hall, or do something where we can look at that movement. And
Yeah.
and so where are you now, 0 to 10 in a pain scale, because you just did that movement. I think that's a start for them. Uh, at least it was with the client that I'm working with. And it was almost like this light bulb came on. Well, why didn't I think about that?
Mhm.
Because they're on autopilot of how to get from here to there.
Yeah. But they came to you because they had pain, right?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. So they do
Mhm,
want the pain to go
mhm.
away.
Yeah, certainly.
Yeah. And are you able to clearly assess the gait and see what part of her gait patterning was the cause?
I'm not a gait expert, so uh, there is someone in the office where I work out of, and that person can do that sort of thing. And then that when they get that assessment of what's going on, then they can come back to me and figure out what we can do to help correct it.
How would
It's
you do something to correct their gait, Gary, if you don't assess their gait?
because I would work with I'm in a PT office,
Hmm.
so I would work with the person who is qualified to assess their gait, and speak with them. And if there's something they want to do in PT, fine. But if there's something that I can do to help that in a more immediate way, I would do that. So
Okay. And do you know what that would
that's
be for,
yeah,
do you know what that would be for gait if you're not assessing gait?
not really. I mean, you can see where people are walking uncomfortably, or walking in a compensatory way. Um, but beyond that, no.
Okay. Well, so
I
there's a great
mean,
opportunity
yeah.
here for you. I see a great opportunity. There's in the club where you are with us as a member, there's a gait assessment class. You can watch that. There's
Hmm.
worksheets. We break down all the steps of gait. Everybody walks. It's not just a runner. So I
Sure.
highly recommend that you take advantage of that course that's available for you in there. It's an evergreen course for all club members. And if you have any curiosity about gait or gait patterning, or whether it's walking or running, I think it's really important because not just runners are the ones who are using that function. So
Hmm.
you could defer to a PT for sure, or you could take the training and see what else you could see. Because to your point, if she's a runner and she's in pain and she's come to you for the pain, you either get to say, I don't do that, I don't do functional mechanics,
Hmm.
and so therefore refer her out, or take down board and understand what you get to visually assess and clinically assess in her gait patterning and then address that with her. But we don't
Right.
want to tell a runner not to run. We don't want to tell a gardener not to garden. We don't want to tell a basket weaver not to basket weave. Like everybody wants to do what they want to do. They want to do it pain-free. So you either have the the knowledge and skill to navigate with them, or you have the knowledge to refer them out and where to refer them to. But I wouldn't keep yourself in a no man's land and then try to convince yourself that it's the athletes that are the problem. It's really because especially as you used running, everybody walks. It's the same joint actions and muscle engagement. So the invitation for you and for that client is, well, there must be something in the running that is a little off that we should find because running itself shouldn't hurt. And now you're back in the optimistic, this can be resolved instead of I can't get them to slow down being an athlete. They don't have to. They don't have to. We need to rise up and not tell them to stop because runners aren't going to stop running. Basketball people aren't going to stop playing basketball. Gardeners aren't going to stop gardening. Everybody loves to do what they love to do, and it shouldn't hurt. So we get to understand what biomechanically and functionally is happening in those instances. How can I spot it? And is this in my lane to remedy? It is if it's gait. In my opinion, it's if you're listening here, gait is in your domain. So see if that training supports you, Gary, because I think there's an opportunity here for you, which is very exciting. I'm glad that
Great.
you're welcome. Okay,
Thanks for that feedback.
yeah, you're welcome. Our last pain type that I want to bring up today is referral pain. Referral pain. How much pain in the body, how much musculoskeletal pain in the body is referral pain? How much of it? Client comes in, they've got pain. What are the chances of it being referral pain?
85 to 95%. 85% or more.
It's 80 to 90. Yeah, exactly. It was 80 when I was in school back in the dark ages before the wheel was developed. And then recently we heard that it was now established as 90%. It's a whole heck of a lot. And what we mean when we talk about referral pain is largely in the chronic window. So I fell down the stairs and I hit this and that on the way down, and now I'm in pain here and there. Oh, that's got to be referral. No, you just walloped yourself in that spot. That's going to hurt. There's tissue damage underneath that impact. But the chronic acute cycle can also be a referral pattern. And that's where it gets a little interesting to navigate. And when you understand implications, you can sort that out a little bit quicker. So most of the referral pain that we're talking about is in that chronic window. I have a little discomfort here when I do this. I have a little discomfort there when I do that. That discomfort is 90% of the time referred from somewhere else, meaning there's more in the pattern, there's more in that function, there's more biomechanics to sort through, and the implications of what's occurring that will lead you to the answer of what's the source of that referral pain. When you can get to the source of what the referral pain is, and then you have knowledge about what treatment plan to put together to solve it, then you solve it. And it doesn't matter if it's referred or not. Referral pain to me as a clinician doesn't spook me. It's very helpful. If I have any sensation from the body, it's very helpful. But I'm not going to get distracted by the referral pain as if it's the thing. But it's needed for me to understand what is the thing. But the thing is not the thing. The thing is not the pain if it's referral pain, but the referral pain is a messenger for me to go find the source. Implications of referral pain. Where is it? What caused it? What's the relationship between these body parts and why are they showing up like that? And why did they show up like that for a while? Chronic, 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 and now they're not happy. What happened there? How come you were okay for a little while doing someone else's job and now all of a sudden you're not happy? What happened? What's the implication of the timeline here? What's the implication of the body part that's jumping in to help? We've talked synergists here. We've talked lever system and reciprocal inhibition. If a synergist is doing heavy lifting for a main guy, why he's unhappy is because he's only a little guy. He's not supposed to do a big guy's job. He tried to be a big guy and then he got unhappy. He's not the problem. The problem is why is the big guy not doing the job? Oh, I'm going to make the big guy do the job. Hold on. Why did the big guy stop doing the job in the first place? That's the genesis. You're not just going to jump after symptoms. A muscle not doing a job is a symptom of something. Of what? That's where your clinical reasoning comes in. That's where your higher level knowledge comes into play so that you actually can chart a treatment plan that solves the problem instead of just keeps you and your client really busy. So referral pain is not a problem, but it's also not the source of the solution. It's not the source or the solution. And It doesn't show up in preventive pain because there is no pain in preventive. It's largely part of chronic pain. And the only time it shows up in acute is when acute is a cycle of chronic. The chronic acute cycle is a thing. It happened, it happened, it happened. The hand was raising, the hand was raising, the hand was raising. Nobody paid attention, nobody paid attention. It raised its hand a little bit higher. It screamed a little bit louder from the back. Nobody paid attention, nobody paid attention. Boom! Put on a pair of socks today, you're down. Ah, okay. That pain is now acute on top of referral, chronic cycling. You got to know that. And when you know that, it becomes really clear. So that when the acute pain goes away, oh, my back feels so much better today. Your work has just begun. Your work has just begun when the acute pain goes down 5 notches. Your work has just begun. So the nature of referral pain is that you don't chase it, but it's very helpful information and it's real. There's also a messaging that goes with that. You get to explain to the person you're in service to why the part that they can actually touch and point to and right here, right here, right here. You get to find a way to clearly anatomically explain to them what you know about referral pain. I believe you. That is right there. That is right there because fill in implications, because that's doing what somebody else was supposed to do. And that's not the message. I'm being general because I don't know, there's no client in front of me right now. I don't say, oh, well, he's doing that because he's just upset about something. That offers no value, right? I believe you that hurts there. That hurts there because that body part is doing X, Y, and Z. And the reason that body part is doing X, Y, and Z is because this guy is doing A, B, and C. And when that happens, this has to happen. You're explaining implications to someone without burdening them with an anatomy lesson. And when you can explain those implications to yourself and verbalize them out loud, you're clear on what needs to be done. And so are they. And so now they're so grateful that you sorted it out for them. Instead of this hurts here, let me rub it. This hurts here, let me put some heat on it. This hurts here, we should stretch it. This hurts here, this hurts here, this hurts here. Okay. All right, babes. So there's your 4 types of pain. Now, what I didn't talk about is compensatory and recruitment pain, or compensatory and recruitment patterns that can lead to pain. But you can weave those in among where they show up in referral, chronic, or acute, because they always do. And my takeaway for you, my intention for you to take away from today is to have a new relationship with pain in a way that creates clarity for you and not confusion, and know your role in addressing that pain. And your role is always about the implications. Once you can clarify the implications, then you know the treatment plan. Okay. So that is the completion for me today. I hope you guys got some. Did you guys get value today? Get some good nuggets, some good takeaways? Okay, amazing. I want you to feel satisfied here. If you guys are here live and there was some value for here, give me a thumbs up or like the video or let me know that this landed for you, that this was a Carrie's giving me thumbs across the screen. Let me know that there was value here for you so I know to keep training in this way on Tuesdays. I will be back here next week. I'm going to wrap us up just a few minutes early because we have our Schatz method practitioners heading into lab. We have a new time zone that we're navigating because we're an international pod. So we're doing our labs middle of the day, which is the end of the day for some of us in Europe. And that means that we're heading in to learn some orthopedic assessment skills. So we're gonna do that here in just a few minutes. So you are welcome, Melissa. I'm glad you're here, Melissa. Hey. So I am going to wrap us up for today and bid you all adieu until next Tuesday. We will be back for more Tuesday training, more clinical confidence, shall we? Okay, loves. I'll see you guys next week. Bye for now.